All right, thanks, guys. The Bucs take on the Panthers, 8:20 Eastern kickoff this Thursday. The Panthers are -6, totals 49.5. We saw a half a point move toward Carolina, movement downward on the total as well. The Panthers open 5.5 up to 6, total open 51.5 down to 49 and a hook. 65% of the consensus is leaning toward Carolina, 52% shaded toward the under. Right now the Bucs are plus 270 on the money line. The Panthers minus 290 on the money line as well. Now the Panthers are 7-3 straight up in their last 10 meetings with the Bucs. They covered 6 out of those 10 games. Obviously, they proved that they can put up some points. They put up 27 against the reigning NFC champions last week in Week 1 in a loss. Now Tampa Bay on the other side, losers in 8 out of their last 10 ball games dating back to last season. They're also 0-7 straight up in their last 7 on the road, really struggling when traveling as of late. Now total-wise, both defenses gave up a combined 61 points in Week 1, so we could see some scoring in this matchup here. I'm going to go ahead and lean Carolina -6 in the over 49.5 in that game. Next matchup, Cardinals, Ravens, 1 o'clock Baltimore. The Ravens are -13.5, totals 46 and a hook. 52% of the consensus is leaning toward Baltimore, 71% shaded toward the over. Right now the Cardinals are plus 535 on the money line, Baltimore -700. Now the Ravens are 13-6 in their last 19 ball games, taking on the NFC West. If you're into historical trends, they've also won 9 out of their last 11 games played in September. Obviously, putting up a 59 spot last week against the Miami Dolphins. Lamar Jackson looked outstanding in that ball game. Now, Arizona, they gave up 27 points to Detroit. They're also 2-4 straight up in their last 6 head-to-head meetings with the Ravens. They failed to cover in 5 out of their last 6 ball games, taking on the AFC North. And, of course, for the exception of the fourth quarter in Week 1, this Cardinals offense looking absolutely anemic, and the defense didn't look all that great either. Now, total-wise, Baltimore, like I said, put up 59 against Miami. Very similar caliber opponent in Arizona here. So I'm going to go ahead and lean Baltimore -13.5 and the over 46 and a hook in that game. And before we go ahead and move on, I'm just going to take a quick timeout and welcome you to the show. Got some lines and personal leans out for NFL Week 2. But before we go ahead and get into that, just want to quickly remind you of my website, patreon.com/BrockPage. We do daily plays on that website, and they begin at just $1.99 per month. We're currently 9-0 in our college football membership tier. We also have plenty of free content there as well. Once again, that is patreon.com/BrockPage. Now let's go ahead and get into our full NFL Week 2 slate of football games. All starts Eastern Standard Time. And on deck, we've got the Bills taking on the Giants, 1 o'clock Eastern kickoff at the Meadowlands. Now the Bills are -1.5 on the road here, total at 43 and a hook. Pretty good two-way action on the spread. No movement there as of late. We did see a 1-point move upward on the total. So once again, the Bills -1.5, total open 42 and a hook up to 43.5. 53% are leaning Giants, 56% shaded toward the under. Right now the G-Men are plus 105 on the money line. Buffalo -$1.15 on the money line as well. Now, if you like the Giants in this matchup here, they are 5-1 against the number in their last 6 head-to-head meetings with the Bills. They've also successfully covered the number in 6 out of their last 7, taking on an AFC East opponent. Now, the Bills, on their side of things, they're just 1-4 straight up in their last 5 Week 2 games, dating back the past couple of seasons. They've also failed to cover in 4 out of their last 5 ball games, taking on a member of the NFC. One more thing to add about Buffalo, they're 1-4 against the number, taking on the NFC East in their last 5 meetings as well. Now, total-wise, the Bills are 10-5 to the under in their last 15. They did hold the New York Jets to just 16 points. Buffalo, actually, believe it or not, one of the top-rated defenses last year, and looking to do a little bit more of the same this year as they pretty much stifled the New York Jets in the second half of Week 1. Now, the Giants on the other side, they scored just 17 points last week. They're also 6-3 to the under in their last 9, taking on Buffalo. I'm actually going to lean toward the home favorite in this one. Give me the Giants plus 1.5 and the under 43.5 in that game. Next matchup, Cowboys taking on the Redskins, 1 o'clock Washington. The Cowboys are -5, totals 46.5. We saw movement upward on the spread and downward on the total. The Cowboys open 3.5 up to -5, total open 48.5 down to 46 and a hook. 68% are leaning Cowboys, 69% shaded toward the over. Right now the Skins are plus 205 on the money line. The Cowboys minus 225 on the money line as well. The Cowboys 7-3 straight up in their last 10 head-to-head meetings with Washington. They covered 6 out of those 10 ball games. They're also 5-0 against the spread in their last 5 head-to-head matchups with a member of the NFC East. They scored 35 points last week against the New York Giants. Now the Skins on the other side, losers in 4 out of their last 5 at home. They've also failed to cover in 4 out of their last 5 ball games, taking on a division rival. Now total-wise, Washington 6-1 to the over in their last 7, taking on Dallas. Their defense gave up 32 points last week to the Philadelphia Eagles. Many of those points coming in the second half. Now, Dallas on the other side, they hung up a 35 burger on the Giants, so I'm going to go ahead and lean Dallas Cowboys -5 and the over 46.5 in that game. Next matchup, Colts, Titans, 1 o'clock, Tennessee. The Titans are 3.5, totals 44 and a hook. We saw a 1-point move toward Tennessee and movement upward on the total. The Titans open 2.5 up to 3.5. Total open 44 up to 44 and a hook. 62% are leaning Titans, 61% shaded toward the over. Right now the Colts are plus 155 on the money line. The Titans minus 170. Now, Indy, pretty good covering the number against Tennessee in the past couple of seasons. They're 7-3 against the number in their last 10, taking on the Titans. They're also 13-2 straight up in their last 15, taking on Tennessee as well. Now, the Titans on their side of things, once again, failing to cover in 7 out of their last 10 head-to-head matchups with Indianapolis. They're averaging just 195 passing yards in that same category. Now, total-wise, Tennessee 6-1 to the over in their last 7. They're also 80% to the over in their last 5 at home. So with all that said and done, I'm going to lean Indianapolis plus 3.5 in the over 44 and a hook in that game. Next matchup, Jacksonville, Houston, 1 o'clock Houston. The Texans are -9, totals 43.5. We're seeing movement downward on the total in this one. Once again, the Texans -9, total open 44.5, down to 43 and a hook. 56% are leaning Houston, 60% shaded toward the over. Right now, the Jags are plus 365 on the money line. Houston minus 460. Houston 4-1 straight up in their last 5 at home, taking on the Jags. They're also 6-4 against the spread in their last 10 head-to-head matchups with Jacksonville as well. Now the Jags, they lack some weapons offensively. They also lost Nick Foles very early in Week 1 with that broken collarbone. They're struggling on the road as of the past season or so. Just 1-6 straight up in their last 7 on the road, failing to cover in 4 out of their last 5 ball games at any location. And when it comes to the total, Houston could very well put it over themselves. Slew of weapons. Obviously, you got Watson. He was a little bit banged up in the last game. Looks like he should play. Obviously, Hopkins, Kenny Stills, great core of running backs there as well. They put up 28 points versus New Orleans. Probably should have won that ball game, but I think Houston should get the job done in this divisional matchup. Give me the Texans -9 and the over 43.5 in that game. Next matchup, Chargers, Lions, 1 o'clock Detroit. The Chargers are just -2.5 in this one, totals at 48. We saw actually a 1-point fade of Los Angeles in the early wagering. We also saw movement upward on the total. The Chargers open 3.5, down to 2.5. Total open 47, up to 48. 69% are leaning Chargers, 68% shaded toward the over. Right now, the Lions are plus 123 on the money line. The Chargers minus 135 there. Now, Los Angeles Angeles is 13-3 straight up in their last 13 ball games, 5-1 against the spread in their last 6, taking on the Lions. If you're into historical trends, the Chargers have successfully covered the number in 7 out of their last 8 road games. Now, the Lions gave up 27 points to Arizona and a rookie quarterback. So defensively, not looking all too sharp. Gave up a lot of second-half points in their Week 1 contest with Arizona. The Lions are also just 1-5 straight up in their last 6, taking on the Chargers. They failed to cover in 6 out of their last 10 ball games. And when it comes to the number, Detroit is 10-3 to the over in their last 13 ball games, taking on a member of the AFC West. Meanwhile, the Chargers 5-0 to the over in their last 5 ball games played in September. I'm going to lean Chargers -2.5 and the over 48 in that game. Next matchup, Vikings, Packers, 1 o'clock, Green Bay. Green Bay is -3 at Lambeau. Totals at 44. We saw a 0.5 point fade of Green Bay and movement downward on the total. The Packers open 3.5 down to 3. Total open 46 down to 44. 58% are leaning Minnesota. 51% shaded toward the under. Right now the Vikings are +145 on the money line. The Packers -155 there. Now Green Bay has failed to cover in 6 out of their last 10 head-to-head matchups with Minnesota. Their offense just putting up 10 points last week. Not looking all too sharp. Now, granted, the Bears' defense is very good, but the Packers certainly not looking crisp on the offensive side of the ball. Now, Minnesota dominated Atlanta 28-12 last week. They're also 5-2 against the number in their last 7, taking on the Packers. Their defense kind of looking like they're back to their old form from 2017, really shutting down a high-powered Atlanta offense. At least they have the tools and the weapons in Atlanta to put up some points. But anyway, Minnesota are really shutting them down in Week 1. Minnesota also has incredible production out of Dalvin Cook in Week 1, and they haven't even really opened it up to their receiving weapons. Cousins only throwing really a handful of times in Week 1. Now, total-wise, Minnesota 7-3 to the under in their last 10, taking on the Pack. 6-1 to the under in their last 7 ball games. I'm going to lean toward Minnesota +3 and the under 44 total points in that game. Next matchup, Patriots, Miami, 1 o'clock, South Florida. The Pats are -19.5, totals 48. We saw a little bit of a move downward on the total in this one. Once again, New England is -19.5, total open 48 and a hook, down to 48 even. 65% are leaning toward the Patriots, 55% shaded toward the over. Right now, the Dolphins are +1,100 on the money line. New England -1,550 on the money line as well. Now, obviously, we know all the controversy with Antonio Brown. I'm going to put it to you this way. He hasn't played a game with the Pats yet, so it's really not diving too much into. I don't think we should see too much line movement with regard to Brown's absence or potential absence. But anyway, the Patriots, they failed to cover in 5 out of their last 6 ball games in Miami. They kind of struggle going down to South Florida. Michael Bennett looks like he was placed on the IR after Week 1. It is going to be 89 degrees in Miami, over 75% humidity. Looks like a lot of teams really struggling in Florida in Week 1 with dehydration and kind of just keeping their fluids. But anyway, Miami 5-2 to the under in their last 7, taking on the AFC East. The Patriots should decimate these guys, but I think Miami should keep it within 20 points. So I'm going to lean Dolphins +19.5 and the under 48 in that game. Next matchup, 49ers, Bengals, 1 o'clock, Cincinnati. The Bengals are the 1.5 point favorites in this one. Totals at 45. We saw a little bit of a move upward on the total in this one. Once again, the Bengals -1.5. Total open 44.5 up to 45 even. 55% are leaning Cincinnati. 64% shaded toward the over. Right now, San Francisco is +$1.10 on the money line. The Bengals -$1.20. Now, the 49ers 1-0 straight up on the year, 1-0 against the number. They covered last week against Tampa Bay, and they actually put up 31 points in Tampa Bay last week. The 49ers are 11-3 straight up in their last 14, taking on the Bengals. If you're into historical trends, that goes back many seasons. They're also 4-1 against the number in their last 5. taking on an AFC opponent. Now, Cincinnati on the other side, losers in 8 out of their last 9. They've also failed to cover in 5 out of their last 6 in Cincinnati. Now, they did give up 21 points to Seattle. They scored only 20. And when it comes to the total, Cincinnati 80% to the over in their last 5, taking on a member of the NFC. They're also 5-1 to the over in their last 6 ball games played in September. And speaking of that particular category, the Niners are 4-2 to the over in their last 6 in September as well. I'm going to lean toward the road dog in this one. Give me the Niners plus 1.5 and the over 45 in that game. Next matchup, Seahawks, Steelers, 1 o'clock, Heinz Field in the Steel City. The Steelers are -4, totals 46. We saw a 1-point move toward Pittsburgh, movement downward on the total. The Steelers open -3, up to -4. Total open 46.5, down to 46. 56% are leaning Seattle, 58% shaded toward the over. Right now, the Seahawks are plus 175 on the money line. Pittsburgh -190. Now, the Seahawks are 7-2 straight up in their last 9, 5-1 straight up in their last 6, taking on the AFC North. Their defense, like I said earlier, gave up just 20 points in Week 1. Meanwhile, the Steelers, they put up just 3 points last week. They failed to cover in 5 out of their last 7. Really not a great covering team over the past couple of years. Defensively, they gave up 33 points. Now, granted, that was to the New England Patriots, but still, if you want to be a top contender, you can't give up 33 points to a caliber of a team equal to yours. Now, total-wise, Pittsburgh 80% to the under in their last 5. They're also 4-1 to the under in their last 5, taking on Seattle if you're into historical trends. And going back many seasons, actually going back to the mid-2000s, Pittsburgh is 12-2 to the under in their last 14 Week 2 matchups. So I'm going to go ahead and lean Seattle Seahawks +4 and the under 46 in that game.